Hello, I'm Sahid. Thank you for clicking this video, and I'm very happy that you're here. Um, if you are new here, welcome. For the past few weeks, I've been reading Canadian literature, and in particular, I've been reading this book called Moon of the Crusted Snow, which has been very interesting for me. Moon of the Crusted Snow is about a small indigenous um, community within the northern part of Canada known as the Anishinaabe community. The Anishinaabe community is very strong on hunting, fishing, and giving back. It's their customs slash tradition. It's their way of survival. They also have played a huge role in preserving their cultures through years on their native lands. In secret, they have certain rituals in which they have preserved. And there's a chapter in which we do see one of those rituals being performed, which I find beautiful that during times in which, white settlers who tried to take over native lands during, colonial times, weren't successful because I've come to read about how certain rituals were passed down through generations in secret to preserve their culture. So it's beautiful reading about that. And in addition, I just want to I sort of mentioned in the last video that I wouldn't be giving too much details with the summaries because I do believe that it's better if you watch my other videos in which I've spoken from chapter 1 to chapter 10 with good summaries and sort of more descriptive summaries of the characters, the setting. But I've been telling myself that from now on, chapter 10, from chapter 11 moving on, I just want to keep it short and um, don't want to give too much info because I prefer you guys sort of watching the other videos and then come into this one. But yes, I want to further on by mentioning sort of the prevalent theme slash I think setting also because what's currently occurring in this community is that they are dealing with an emergent state of a power outage, and people are sort of thirsted with making sudden changes with how they do things within their community. Due to this power outage, they no longer have electricity, high internet access, they don't have communication with other regions within the outside parts or outside world as they described it in the book. And this is deeply affecting them because they don't know what's going on and what is causing this power outage. And leaders within this community are trying to find ways to sort of instill within the community a sense of hope and a sense of we're trying our best here and don't worry, but it's just a bare minimum. They can't really do much because they don't know much either, and so they are sort of just sending notices about what little things or might be occurring in the future and reminding people to just preserve and conserve energy with electricity and even water, and because they have a temporary generator on for them right now. And so it's an unfortunate time for them, and it's been really interesting just reading about how different people are reacting to this. Mostly people have been reacting in panic, frustration, and anxiety. And yeah, I just think it's important to think of these attitudes of these people within this community as we continue to read. Um, yeah, so I will now start chapter 11. And I'm very happy that you're here. Chapter 11 is pretty short, and yeah, so I'm just gonna get to it. And this might be one of my shortest videos, but I told myself that I want to make it a goal that I each video I record or post on YouTube will only be that specific chapter. I was thinking at some point to maybe add several chapters into one video, but I prefer the idea of just put in one video and directing it only for one chapter. And so I hope that way is not too conflicting for you guys. I hope you guys also like that idea. I just don't want to put too much chapters in one video, so I will now read chapter 11. Chapter 11. Hey, wake up. Nicole nudged Even again. He opened his eyes in the pitch black bedroom. He couldn't tell if he was awake or still sleeping. Even, wake up. Her elbow in his side stared him out of his deep sleep, but it was the tremble in her voice and her rigid body that really woke him. I'm awake. What's up? I had a really weird dream. Oh, yeah? Yeah, I'm scared. He turned to face Nicole and inched closer. Come here, he said. She buried her face into his t-shirt. What was your dream? I dreamt that me and the kids were outside, she said, and we were trying to run through the snow, but it was that kind of snow that's hard on top and real powdery underneath. Nagon's was on one side and Mygon was on the other. I was holding their hands real tight. I was trying to run on top of the snow, but I kept falling through every couple steps. The kids would pull me back up and would start running again until I fell back through. I don't know what we were running from or running to, but we had to get somewhere. You weren't around anywhere. The kids kept saying stuff like, "Don't worry, Mommy," and "We're gonna make it." But it wasn't their same voices. It was like they were elders speaking to me. They were calm. They were smiling at me every time they pulled me up from the snow. I was getting tired, and they made sure I made it out of there. I was falling deeper and deeper into the snow every time the crust broke. Then I finally fell in over my head. I was struggling, trying to get up. The snow was getting in my eyes and in my mouth. I thought I was gonna suffocate, but they reached all the way down to pull me back up. But this time, their hands felt bigger. Even lay perfectly still, listening. He stroked the top of Nicole's head, soothing her while he grew increasingly frightened. She stifled, and he knew she was on the verge of crying. They pulled me all the way to the surface, up to my feet, but we weren't running anymore. We were in the middle of the bush, and there was a whole bunch of other people there. There was a fire going on. It looked like a winter camping site. I turned back to face Mygon and Nagons, but I saw a young man and a young woman wearing old patched snowmobile suits. They both had long hair that flowed so beautifully. They smiled at me, and then I knew it was them. It was our kids, but they were adults, all grown up. They started talking to me in the old language, but I didn't understand them. It was a place I didn't recognize. I didn't recognize anyone else there either. I was panicking. Then Nagons reached out to grab my hand. She squeezed it tight and looked into my eyes. Her eyes were so big and brown. Her cheeks were so high and proud. Her hair fell so beautifully down the sides of her face. She was the strongest and prettiest young woman. Then she reached up and touched my cheek. She said, "Welcome home, mommy." And then I woke up. He squeezed her gently. "It's okay. It was just a dream." He held her close to him as she fell back to sleep. He remembered his father's dream, and his eyes stayed open in the darkness as the competing omens forced a calm from his mind and body. And that is the end of chapter 12. Sorry, chapter 11. Okay, let's talk about it. So, Nicole McLeod, who is Evan's wife, and these two have known each other for very long. To give a little background, they they sort of became familiar with one another in kindergarten, and they happened to become couples in high school, and since then they've loved each other and been married for years. Um, these two have two kids. Um, One is Maigan, who's a 5-year-old boy, and the other is Nagan, who's a 3-year-old girl, in which they both do admire. And we have a moment in chapter 11, a really short moment, in which Nicole wakes up and she sort of is scared because she has had this very interesting dream that we come to know of, as I just read in chapter 11, in which she quickly, wakes up Even, letting him know that she's had a dream and she's scared. And Even is like, what's up, what happened in the dream? And she sort of explained that she is having this dream in which she's sort of being, she's constantly facing the same terror. And the terror is that she keeps falling deeper into a pile of snow. This pile of snow, each time she falls, she happens to. At first, she didn't know. At first we weren't aware of who she kept seeing and who was dragging her out of the snow. But we come to read that it was her kids, who apparently are sort of adults now and much older, and they keep smiling at her, telling her that everything's gonna be fine, and they keep pulling her until it gets to a point at which she falls deeper, and this time I think she hits her head or something, and this time she's actually panicking. And then after that, she gets to a point which she's in the forest and she sees her kids, and her kids are sort of telling her that, "Welcome home, mommy," which I don't exactly know what that symbolizes, but it's interesting. I do believe that the earlier parts of how Maigon and Nagans kept pulling her is sort of a sign that during this horrifying times in which I think things are slightly getting worse and worse, it's important to remember that things are necessarily going to be okay. So I think that dream sort of symbolizes, because dreams do come out of things that are occurring in within your life, or things that might occur in the future. And so I think them sort of, or the author, waubgeshig sort of put in this dream or this moment within the book is sort of like a symbol to something um, that is prevalent with this book. And I think it was important for him to add this part within the book, and that was interesting. Um, and I hope that the way I sort of viewed that part of the dream is right. I don't know, but based on what I read, I think that's sort of what the author goal was. And then we have the part that he's sort of saying "Welcome home." The kids are saying "Welcome home, mommy." I don't know exactly what that means, but I think that's also a sense of hope in a way, because now her kids or their kids have grown up. They look all beautiful, and we have Nicole sort of describing how beautiful her daughter is. She says she's the prettiest young woman, and I think that that moment was a sign of just hope in a way, that to see that her kids and their kids have grown to become these grown up adults, and yeah, so that was interesting, and I found that beautiful. Yeah, and then they go back to sleep. And so yeah, that's basically chapter 11. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you continue to support me and watch my other videos that are upcoming. Um, and yeah, I'm feeling like reading more, so I will also be reading chapter 12 before I sleep tonight. If I feel like reading more, I might read more, but I'm very interested in what's going to happen in chapter 12, so I will be reading that as well tonight. Um, Please subscribe, like, and comment, and thank you. Bye.